The room is full, not quiet, not empty, full, people talking, laughing, conversations overlapping, and you're right there in the middle of it. You're smiling at the right moments, saying the right things, playing your part exactly how you're supposed to, and yet something feels off. Because underneath all of that, you feel more alone right now than you do when you're by yourself. You don't say it, you don't show it, you just get through it. And then you get home, close the door, and something in you loosens, not sadness, relief. Like you don't have to pretend anymore. And if you've felt this, you've probably tried to fix it the obvious way. More people, more plans, more rooms. But the more you tried to fix it like that, the worse it started to feel. Because the problem was never what you thought it was. Think about the last time this happened. You were sitting with people, maybe friends, maybe coworkers. Everything looked right. You were included. You were part of the conversation. Nothing was wrong. And yet you still felt it, that quiet disconnection sitting underneath everything. And the first place your mind goes is, something's wrong with me. Maybe you're too closed off. Maybe you're overthinking. Maybe you're just not built for this. But that assumption is wrong, because what you're feeling actually has a structure to it. There are two completely different kinds of loneliness. One is simple. You don't have enough people around you. That kind is easy to recognize. But the other one is different. It's what happens when you're surrounded by people and still don't feel seen. That's the one you're feeling. And here's the part most people miss. You cannot fix that kind of loneliness by adding more people. In fact, the more you try to solve it that way, the more obvious the gap becomes. Because every time you sit in a room that looks like connection, but doesn't feel like it, your brain notices. And it keeps asking the same question. If everything looks right, you've probably told yourself at some point, I'm just overthinking this. So you try to push through it, you talk more, you engage more, you try to feel what everyone else seems to be feeling, but the feeling doesn't go away because your brain isn't confused. It's actually doing something very precise. It's scanning constantly, quietly, for one specific signal, not how many people are around you, not how many conversations you're having, but something much more specific. Is there anyone here who actually knows me? Not your surface, not your social version, you. Your brain is looking for someone who would notice if something real was wrong with you. And if that signal isn't there, it doesn't matter how full the room is, your brain still registers absence. That's why you can sit in a crowded place and feel tense, but sit alone in your room and feel calm. Because this isn't about being alone, it's about being unseen, and your nervous system knows the difference instantly. At some point, someone probably told you, you just need to put yourself out there more. And you listened, you showed up more, you talked to more people, you said yes to more plans, and for a while, it felt like progress. But the feeling never really went away, because that advice solves a different problem. It solves the problem of not having people. But that's not what you're dealing with. You don't feel alone because there aren't enough people. You feel alone because the connection doesn't go deep enough. And depth doesn't come from repetition, it comes from something else entirely. There's a limit to how many real connections your brain can actually hold. Not acquaintances, not people you casually talk to, real connections. The kind where someone understands how you think, what you carry, what you don't say out loud. That number is small, much smaller than you think, and most of your interactions never reach that level. You can be surrounded by people who like you, laugh with you, talk to you regularly, and still not be known by any of them, and your brain can feel that difference immediately. That's why the room feels full. But something still feels missing. There's also something else you've probably noticed. This feeling feels more common now, more frequent, more intense, and there's a reason for that, because the way people connect has changed. Most interactions today are built for speed. Quick conversations, surface-level exchanges, constant movement. There's always an exit. You can leave the conversation, switch the topic, check your phone. There's always a way to avoid staying long enough for something real to happen. But depth doesn't work like that. Depth requires time, and more importantly, it requires discomfort. The kind of discomfort where you stop performing, where you don't know exactly what to say next, where something real starts to come through. But most environments aren't built for that anymore. They're built to keep things light, easy, comfortable, nice. So what you end up with is something that looks like connection, but never becomes it. And after a while, You start to feel it, not as a thought, but as a quiet emptiness that shows up even when everything looks fine. And here's the truth most people don't admit. A lot of the people around you feel it too. They've just learned to ignore it. You haven't. And that's why it feels heavier for you. Now think about this carefully. Is there even one person in your life where that feeling disappears? Where you don't feel like you have to perform? Where you don't think about how you're coming across? Where you can just exist without adjusting yourself? If that person exists, then you already know what your brain has been searching for, because something changes in that space. You don't feel the pressure to be on. You don't feel like you're being evaluated. You don't feel like you have to maintain anything. You just are. And that's not random. That kind of connection is built in a very specific way. It doesn't happen instantly, and it doesn't happen in groups. It happens slowly when you show something real and the other person doesn't pull away, they stay, and then they come back with something equally real. And over time, that builds something your brain recognizes immediately. Safety, not surface level comfort, real safety. The kind where you don't have to filter yourself. And when that's not present, your brain notices, no matter how many people are around you. So this is what all of this comes down to. You were never designed for constant social interaction. You were designed for depth. And depth is rare. It takes time. It takes honesty. It takes a level of openness most environments don't allow. That's why the crowded room feels the way it does. Not because something is wrong with you, but because something is missing. And your brain refuses to pretend otherwise. That feeling you keep trying to fix isn't a flaw. It's a signal pointing you towards something real and refusing to let you settle for anything less. So the next time you feel alone in a room full of people, don't ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Ask something more accurate. Is there anyone here who actually knows me? Because that's the only thing your brain has been looking for this entire time.